You're listening to Depth Perception, supported by our patrons on Patreon. Hey Depth Perception listeners. Do you like time? Do you have theories about it? Whatever you think time is, it's not what Jean Ray thinks it is. Join us for our last episode of October on Jean Ray's Time Cube. But first, a trigger warning. While the theory isn't essentially bigoted, the website itself is full of a lot of anti-Semitic, racist, and homophobic vitriol. So I wanted to make sure that you're aware of that before you get into this. You're going to hear us struggle with that the entire time, trying to filter it out and talking about the extent to which we can filter it out. We're going to post two links, one where you can access the website on the Wayback Machine, and also another website that somebody made where they went and took out all of the racist, homophobic, and anti-Semitic stuff. There's ableism peppered throughout the website as well, and you're still going to see some of that in the cleaned up version. If you do choose to listen, we think you'll enjoy hearing us talk about this truly unique theory of time. Keep in mind we're using the word theory very generously. Here's our show.
Our names are Randy and Leo.
That's true. It's, if you didn't know, you could have guessed. Anyways, we're not the first people that have talked about Time Cube, and we're not going to be the last. Time Cube is one of those things that if you try to understand, it's going to...
Just don't do it. Just don't try to understand it.
Yeah, there's not really any... Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about what is Time Cube. All right. Who is Dr. Jean Ray?
He's not a doctor. That's for sure.
He's not a doctor.
He goes by doctor.
If you've heard of Time Cube, it's a website that used to be run by Jean Ray until the time of his death in 2015. It's this man's
manifesto.
Polemical challenge to science. Yeah, it's like a long manifesto. He tries to dissect. He tries to challenge the typical view of time, but not how you might think. He is unsatisfied. He's angry at the fact that scientists and people who believe in God believe that there is one day for every rotation of the Earth. According to Jean Ray, there is a 96-hour for simultaneous rotational day. Yeah. Sometimes I think he calls it the 96-hour day, but it's really 4 days in one rotation. Sun up, sundown, midday, and midnight, happening simultaneously. And the cube is basically, it results from a square being placed around the equator of the Earth, and then in order to get the two poles, you need to make it into a cube so that you have a square surrounding the Earth. And this square is implied by those points rotating all at once. Those are the corners of the square.
It's one of those things where, like, when you look at the words that he uses a lot, which are words like oneism and cube and boring and belly button. It's one of these things that you like expect to not make sense when you look at it without really looking at it. And I can't say that I think it like makes sense that just by drawing a cube around the Earth that you suddenly change its polarity and like manifest the 96-hour day or the simultaneous days. But like it's like almost like an experience thing, right? Because it's like it's about people in the different quadrants of the Earth experiencing the day in different ways at different times. Something like that, yeah. Well, I don't know, because like the equator being the widest part of the Earth is the thinnest part of the cube. Like as far as the poles go, because that's where they meet and where the day is longest. And in that lecture which is like the maybe not the definition of a lecture, but definitely what I think of as a lecture, which is something I don't necessarily want to hear from somebody who I don't necessarily want to hear talking at me. He says that like time is different in New York than it is in Miami because of the
Yeah,
diameter of the Earth.
yeah, because the circumference of the Earth is smaller in New York than it is in
Yeah.
Miami, so time moves slower. Yeah,
I mean, it's only about the way that we measure time. Like time has its own rules separate from perception.
yeah. He seems to not. He is insisting that the idea of time is fundamentally linked to the rotation around like the axis of the Earth. Like time is can't be understood without like outside of the rotational like the
Yeah, like
rotation of the Earth
outside
around its
of
axis.
the
Like,
specific context of this
it's
planet.
literally equivalent to some. It's equivalent to some aspect of that, and the cube is also. It's like the cube is. It's not like Earth is creating the cube or implying the cube. It's like the cube is real, and in its uh four sides. Well, I guess it has six sides, right? But the sides that are perpendicular to the Earth at the equator, like those somehow create the experience of time of people on the Earth. It's kind of like the cube is more real than the Earth itself. This is where I think he's sort of going. He uses a lot of the same sort of symbols in multiple places, so there's something kind of weirdly united about this. Let me read you an example, actually. Time cube proves a one-face God impossible due to four-corner face metamorphic human, baby, child, parent, and grandparent faces. I mean, what I visualize when I try to visualize that as I read it is some kind of strange four-faced human with a different aged face on each side of its head. And I don't know if that's what he's thinking, but there's something about like this idea of like this bifurc or sorry, well, this separation into four parts, this like quadrantization of everything. I don't know. It's like it kind of runs through everything he says, even the really racist stuff. And eventually, we're gonna have to at least acknowledge the fact that this man does not believe in racial mixing. So we're gonna provide you with two website links, one of which is gonna have all of that and the homophobia removed, and the other will not.
Yeah, I want to read. I want to read another excerpt. Navel connects four corner fours. God is born of a mother. She left belly button signature. Every priest has Ma sign but lies to honor unicorns. Belly button proves four corners. Your dirty lying teachers use only the midnight to midnight one day, ignoring 3 other days. Time to foul already wrong marshmallow. And again, on the surface, it doesn't make sense. I don't know what belly button has to do with anything. And I don't know why sometimes he distinguishes between navel and belly button. But like I mean like what if this is just an exercise, right, in making up something to say that you know you're only going to be taught the accepted things. I mean because like he clearly doesn't have any nice things to say about the way that people are educated. What if this isn't about there being a time cube and maybe it's just supposed to be like an expose about education and you know accepted perspectives and I mean I hate the idea of a free thinker, but
Maybe like he kind of does know that it's not real, or at some level he's creating something as a challenge, but he kind of is trapped in it, and he has no control over whether or not he can't stop in some way. Like he kind of half believes it
oh, I
in a
think
way
he
that
definitely like has a theory that he believes to be true.
don't try to argue with any one any one speculation that I throw out there because all of them are going to be kind of nonsense. But yeah, I think that because in reality, I think he probably believes it. But the mysterious thing about him and this website is that they're kind of a prism through which you could sort of project yourself. I mean, in order to try to imagine what it would be like to be consumed by the reality that this guy clearly was consumed by in his life, like there's a million ways to do it to get from where I am to this. And I think that if there was one way to do it, this would be true. You know what I mean? Like the only way to really understand this would be to literally be this man. And that's rare. Usually things that people are willing to share on the internet are things that they know other people are going to agree on. But your father was a fish. You evolved from an egg laid in water, fertilized by a sperm fish swimming upstream, just as salmon swim upstream to fertilize female egg laid in the water. Maybe you should worship a fish god.
I just think that, like, I don't think that you can devise a mythology like this without, like, I totally agree that I think he believes it, but I don't think you could develop a mythology like this that's like consistent. You know, I think there's no way that he doesn't believe it for sure, which is what makes it interesting and what makes it easier to empathize. Because, like, I haven't read I didn't read the racist website. Unfortunately, I was exposed to it in that Georgia Tech lecture. But, like, before that, it was, like, easy to empathize, and you're right that it is a prism through which you end up kind of recontextualizing your own thoughts. And, like, he's not like even asking you to, it doesn't feel like he's asking you to agree with him.
He does say, I'll give you $10,000 if you can prove me wrong, but he never says, but it's always framed as a challenge.
But, like, he's the judge. Like, he's the arbiter. He's the only person that gets to decide is the other thing. Well, he doesn't anymore. We get to decide because he's dead. But, like, he's the only person that has, like, the perfect knowledge of this thing.
Time is cubic, not linear, as stupid and evil educators teach children.
But, like, what is that? That's the thing, is, like, when he doesn't say stuff like that, I understand what he means. When he says that time is cubic, I just, like, think about how bad I was at math and I don't understand what it means. I mean, I guess, is it, like, I don't know, like, I mean, I know what linear means, so, like, you can extrapolate and say that, like, the difference between a straight line and a cube is that all the corners of the cube meet.
He kind of seems to be saying that time is curved in on itself, or cubed in on itself. Like, time is a box around the physical world and created by its particular reality. Like, time cannot be separated from the rotation of the Earth around its axis. Or maybe the rotation of the Earth and the existence of Earth as a thing can't be separated from this cube that is formed around it. Yeah, I think at this point, I'm pretty much the foremost living time cube scholar. So ask me anything.
I think it's you and the person that transposed and scrubbed this this stuff. Like, at some point we have to talk about, like, his weird dictionary. his lexicon.
We should
just some things that, like, I think there's, like, terms that he uses that you need to know to be able to understand this stuff, and I don't know them, which is, like, part of what makes it easy to understand, but also the thing that, like, kind of leaves you in the dust, not being able to understand it. I don't know. I don't know what his words mean.
Some of it honestly just seems like pure aesthetics. Like, I wish I could show what this screen looks like.
I'll use Bon Iver as an example because Bon Iver uses words that sound nice together, and he doesn't necessarily make an effort to write lyrics that work in a linear way. It definitely has a lot to do with aesthetics. But just, like, first being introduced to this, like I can't pick up on what the aesthetics are.
Let me give you an example, some low-hanging fruit. So I'm looking at a section right now that has some organizational principles to it. It's a list of sort of accusations against you. All italics, you in all caps in red, and then what follows is in blue. So listen to this. You are the lowest form. You can't procreate alone. You destroyed the village. You destroyed the family. You destroyed childhood. You destroyed naturalism. You don't know the truth. You pitiful mindless fools. You are educated stupid. You worship cubeless word. You are your own poison. You create your own hell. You must seek time cube. Like, sometimes it's just...
Wow, that didn't make it to this website.
Yeah, see, a lot didn't make it to the website. It's like they just did keyword searches, and every time they mentioned, I don't know, family, they just said, okay, we're taking that out. Which, like, yeah. Better to cut too much than too little with this guy.
The thing that's compelling about this is that it's like a fresh perspective, which, like, when it comes to, everybody has a different perspective on life. Everybody has a different perspective on, like, events that happen. But when was the last time, and what will the next time be, that somebody has a fresh take on time? That's the thing that's charming about this. It's not Jean Ray. I mean, his writing is, like, kind of charming. I haven't read the racist things. I guess it's just, like, the creativity of it that is charming. The fact that you get to, like, peek inside of somebody who... I just have to believe what I read and think that he doesn't perceive time the same way that I do.
Right. Part of this is just that he has a perception of time that maybe no vocabulary can capture. And I think there's a lot of things throughout...
Sure tried.
Like, in the world around us. He sure tried. I mean, there's a lot of words here. Listen to this. Listen to this. Not even a god can deny that I have squared the circle of a static Earth and cubed the Earth's sphere by rotating it once to a dynamic time or life cube. Only a false god, or academically brainwashed, indoctrinated, mindless moron would deny that the Earth lacks the top and bottom, the front and back, and two sides physical dimensions of a cube that spirals a 4-season quad helix around the sun, creating a swirling of 4 simultaneous years, as in a separately created year for each of 4 seasons. Man is the only evil animal. Man is the only word animal. Word equates instituted evil. Word adultism is anti-child. A word god can be erased. Word brings a Babel curse. Get ready for Armageddon. Beliefs equate pornography, for they coexist on the web. Something to that. It's interesting. There is no damn word god. Truth is physical, word a lie. It is what you do, not utter. Without deed, word starves. Word god lends not a hand. And then, a link. The greatest thinker, which goes to another website with a short bit of text on it, which I think is worth reading. Thinks above gods. God is a self. A self is the lowest form of humanity. A self-word God is the lowest degraded human behavior. God is the supreme excuse for human adults to absolve themselves of any obligation to preserve natural resources for their own children during their lifetime. Any human who lives only for today should die tonight, for they deserve no tomorrow. Adult plunder of the natural resources depict the mentality of a maniac who crucifies children. The Bible teaches support and advances the Armageddon and its barren earth inheritance upon the children. Unless the children organize into a powerful force to stop the adult ransacking of nature, they must now prepare for the coming adult-inflicted hell on earth. No human has personal right to believe wrong. As there is but a single creation principle, there are over 2,000 wrong and evil religions on earth. Creation is unity, not entity.
like, he says absolute nonsense that you can't put together. But then he says creation is unity, not entity. And then you just like, yeah, Carl Sagan could have said that. like, like, he just like, he uses like profundity as punctuation. And then he uses words as like, maybe this is like translated back from Wingdings. But like I said, like, he has this crazy lexicon and these words he uses that are everyday words, like navel and belly button and marshmallow and burrito and boring. That like, well, boring I guess is a bad example because he uses boring in the way that you use boring. But he uses like, he uses words that like you just don't associate with the things that he says. And it's like almost poetic a little bit, but it doesn't make sense. It's like collages of words that don't add up to a concept. But he like I said, he says like almost profound things to punctuate and like tie the non-conceptual things together.
Exactly. Try words to stop tornado. I mean,
word is another one. I don't know what he means when he says word.
I think he literally means that we're enslaved by words, by language. Which is kind of like, if you take that as one of the founding principles of what he's trying to do.
So when he says try word to stop tornado, what he means is like, try reasoning with a tornado. Is that what he means?
Basically.
Try to suss it out. Yeah. And like, because like, it seems like his problem with science is that it attempts to use, like, it's an attempt at wrapping our minds around concepts that he just thinks we're not allowed to understand.
I have to say, the more that I read this, the more certain things start to make sense.
It's the Necronomicon.
Listen, I know what this means now, and I wouldn't have yesterday. Truth about Santa Claus debunks Santa God. God evolves from Santa. He explained that in another spot that I saw. God just replaces the myth of God, according to him, replaces the myth of Santa Claus. For some reason, he uses Socrates, Clinton's, Einstein, and Jesus to represent the four corners of the earth, but we're not
Socrates, Clinton, Einstein, and Jesus.
Not Clinton, the Clintons.
Oh, the Clintons.
It's clearly laid out.
I want to dive into his lexicon and try to like figure out what the words that he says means, if it's even possible. Taco owners of religious academic Christianity have enslaved your ass, and you are too brilliant to know you are a slave to plunder profiteers of Earth's cubic nature. What unicorn mentality you have to worship an old dead taco as God creator. So, unicorn mentality, like, even if I can't articulate what I feel that it means, like, I think the meaning is clear.
I just realized that I was only looking at one part. Sorry, go ahead. What I said does not need to...
Say what you want to say.
No.
I think this works better as a jumble of ideas and sentences.
Okay, you know what? Let's lean in.
In terms of the podcast.
Let's lean in.
I'm gonna hit like a randomizer when I edit.
You better. This. Wow, the website started out really small and really organized. Go back to the first blip on the Wayback Machine. It's just one page of text, 2 pages of text. There's nothing racist, nothing anti-Semitic.
Do you think he was aware of his racism and tried to like make it even less intelligible than the other things that he was writing? Or do you think it's like part of the core of the philosophy? Because like if he's like very racist and a lot of these ideas like are things that we like maybe figured out in the Golden Age of India, or the Islamic Golden Age or something. Like, I mean, I don't know if that's true, but like, I mean, do you think maybe he's just being contrary because he doesn't like the idea that black and brown people believe in regular time?
I don't.
Because I don't see why racism has a place in this, but it's there. And
I think that if we wanted if we wanted to actually try for a second to separate the racism of Jean Ray from the question of whether or not this theory has value. So, I mean, plenty of scientists were extraordinarily racist. I mean, especially going back just the last few hundred years. And then there's people like lots of ancient like Greek philosophers. Plenty of them had ideas that were like fundamentally like classist. They had ideas that if those ideas were kept around today, and sometimes they are, they would be seen as like extraordinarily reactionary, ideas. So I just think what I'm saying is I think that if for some reason you thought that this was real, or you wanted to try to generalize aspects of it, you could take those things out and still try to like play with the rest of it, I guess.
And somebody did.
Yeah, that's right. They cut everything out and left it up without it.
The only reason I'm asking is because I kind of get the impression that it has to somehow be central because it doesn't make sense being there.
Oh, are you saying it's central because of the whole thing about the four races in the four quadrants of the earth, the corners?
Yeah, I just don't I just like this is like a theory about reality and time. I just don't understand why race and sexuality play into it at all.
This site is a collection of data for a coming book. Peruse it. No human has two hands as they are opposites. What? Like plus and minus that cancel as entity.
Like, I get it. I get what he means. You don't have two hands because they're opposites. Like,
one thing he says a lot is that mother and child are the same age because you're not a mother until you have a child.
And it makes perfect sense.
It does.
His stupid math idiot reasoning makes sense.
The eyes of the flounder fish were relocated. Why were yours relocated? Your opposite eyes were moved to one corner to overlay for a single perspective, but that corrupts your opposite brain. No cube or hell. Education and religion severely diminishes your intelligence and mentality, instituting oneness evil. You are educated stupid and you have no inkling to just how evil you think.
Like, I get something today that I didn't get yesterday. When do teenagers die? Adults eat teenagers alive. No record of their death. Father-son image, not God's. Like,
oh, because teenagers become adults?
Yeah.
Is that what he's saying?
Like,
wow, I get it too.
That's what I'm reading. Which is like, this website is a lot like Bloodborne. Like, well, insight is a core mechanic of the game. Like, you gain more knowledge and the world becomes more strange, but it explains things. This is just a teaser for my video game show that you guys have to pay for on Patreon. It's just like, you read a little bit of it and you understand how, if you understand the logic of one thing, you work backwards and you unravel the sweater. Like, a little bit at a time. And like, I think if I kept reading this, I would eventually know what he means by marshmallow and burrito and taco god, and why he says the word belly button every goddamn paragraph. But yeah, but I also kind of dread that.
Right. It shows you. It's like you're like at the base of the mountain and you're looking up at somebody who's like at the peak, and you're wondering what you have to.
Oh, that's a good callback to a really great episode.
Stop.
In the interest of full disclosure, it would be wrong of me not to take this opportunity to say that we recorded my favorite episode yesterday, except saying that we recorded it isn't entirely fair.
I fucked up. I wasn't recording.
One of us recorded it really well. One of us didn't do a great job.
It was a good episode. We had just gotten through
I was really happy with the episode.
Somewhere really interesting. And then I was like,
yeah, we reached like a new point of understanding of the world. And then we decided to check if we were both recording.
And I wasn't. I mean, I was, but I was recording on a dead channel.
But it's okay.
I recorded an hour and a half of silence, is another way to put it.
Yeah, you'll hear a circumcised version of that in the new year.
Yeah, we will. And with the same great analysis, but less exciting because it will lack all of the passion that we had when we were originally discussing it. So look forward to that.
Yeah, and look forward to the live streams that we're going to do so that this doesn't happen. Things
but
like
also
that
you should be glad because you don't deserve to hear us talking about things all excited. You should be willing to listen to it even when it's boring.
Yeah, even when it's really sterile and analytical and not euphoric. Although this is like, I'm pretty chuffed with this as a topic. So yeah, like I was saying, like, as long as you understand, I feel like as long as you can reach an understanding of one sentence in this weird, crazy document, like, first of all, I don't think you're going to recover from that. But I think you become more able to understand the rest of it. I still don't get like the actual theory. It doesn't make sense and it doesn't add up, and I don't understand the point he's making about time, except that the world has quadrants that have different time of day.
Let me ask you something. When you were watching that video of him lecturing at Georgia Tech, you heard people like listening and presumably nodding along when he would say, you know, you understand after explaining something. He does these lectures and probably goes through them feeling like people are listening and understanding things that he says. Like, and
yeah, a bunch of smooth brains.
Right, and then of course they all. It's so funny that you say that. I just sent somebody a smooth brain meme today, but mostly because it had the word winkle in it. But never mind.
We're on opposite sides of the meme spectrum.
I think we are. I don't know what your side even is, and that's proof enough.
I hate them. They're rotten.
The reason I brought that up was because listen to this. I mean, I feel like this is kind of him talking about this from his perspective. I can talk with a human for hours about the time cube, and they will agree with every claim I make. But at the end of the conversation, they remark that they believe in the non-value belief God and cannot accept cubic creation, regardless of all the ineffable truth and wisdom it proves.
I mean, there is an element of, like, you have to be polite until you can't be polite anymore, right? It's like, it's there.
Yeah.
But I don't, like, when I watched that video of him giving that lecture and having the Q&A session, like, at no point did I think, well, at one point, I thought, wow, this guy is an asshole. But the rest of the time, it was like, God damn it, these question people are assholes.
He links to a page, read Physics of Santa Claus, explain the physics of a god, And you go to it, and it's a guy talking about the physics that it would like for like Santa Claus's sleigh to fly, like the aerodynamics and stuff
Santa
like that.
and God debase women as if non-existing opposites. How evil unto their mothers. There's a lot of Santa on this website.
Some of this, I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, I know. That's what I mean. Like, he says such awful
And he went on
things
and then he goes and he talks about the tragedy of people like having their corn, their heirloom corn, taken from them and sold by a company for profit at a level that where they couldn't buy the corn back. Like, that's a real problem that communities all over the world face. Like, abuses from corporations taking advantage of their crops. And he drops that in.
He really does. I mean, he's like pretty woke about issues that affect people of color all over the world. Definitely does not support miscegenation.
No.
But like, he does know, and he does seem to really be opposed to things that happen to black and brown people and everybody else that whites can get their hands on. Like, he's aware of it, and it seems like he thought it was a bad thing. I hope he thought it was a bad thing.
He definitely thought that was a bad thing. It's just that, let's not give him too much credit here.
No, I don't want to give him too much credit because he's definitely a racist, and he definitely says queer in a way that makes me feel icky. But, like, he it's almost like he knows that he's wrong. And it just it still makes me question, like, why it's here. Like, there's a lot of things that I'm not asking, why is this here? Like, somehow Santa being a part of this makes sense. Somehow. It does. But I still can't get my head around the races and queer God, and I don't understand why the Clintons are here either, but I'm sure he has his reasons. It's one of those things that, like, the racist part and the homophobic part, that's like the thing that makes me worried about how much I'm able to understand of what he's saying. Because the more of this makes sense, the more I worry that I become receptive to those things.
Yeah.
I like to think that I'm past the point of being influenced too much by bad ideas.
Right, and that's why we can't endorse this.
Number one, I don't endorse it as a theory. I endorse it as a website. It's a great website. I could spend 1,000,000 years here.
Right, as a primary source, it's definitely, yeah. And again, like, you can go watch.
It's the best one I've found for this podcast.
Yeah, go look at the one that doesn't have any of the horrible shit in it. I mean, it still has some pretty, like, it definitely has some ableist language about, like, he just sort of ceaselessly calls people morons and stupid. But I think they took out all the really bad stuff on even that on the cleaned up website too. So, like, you can go on this website, and the worst thing that you're going to see is, like, him just calling people stupid and morons a lot. But if you go to the other website, again, there's more. There's lots of stuff that you're going to get that you're not going to get on the other website, but a lot of it's just racist stuff.
The thing is, though, it almost sounds like it's not ableist, because, like, he's definitely the only person that gets his theory. He's definitely the only person that has perfect knowledge of it. I mean, I would say that there's people that have perfect knowledge about almost everything, but he's the only guy that knows this, and, like, so he's calling everybody stupid and everybody whatever other words you said that he used. I just have so, like, all I'm saying is that, like, I have so much trouble understanding its being there that it feels somehow like it's because he thinks it seems like it's because he thinks everybody but him. Am I making sense? That, like, the fact that it's there is so it so thoroughly boggles the mind, or this mind. It doesn't make sense that it's there, except that he thinks everybody but him is beneath where he's
That's
at.
true. He explicitly does say that a lot, too, that he's the world's wisest human.
I'm sure he does. I'm sure he does. Big Brother ice pick academic lobotomy.
Let me just do a... What did you just say?
It's just I was scrolling and I stopped scrolling to tab back into Zoom.
Yeah.
And I saw a sentence that... I saw a phrase that just turned my head inside out, which is Big Brother ice pick academic lobotomy.
Wow. He calls himself a cubic. Which sounds powerful.
Well, yeah, why wouldn't he?
He's also wisest human. He's the greatest philosopher and the greatest mathematician.
And what if he is? I'm really looking forward to the time when this becomes a cult. I think that's going to be really exciting.
He talks about cube harmonics, but he doesn't say in what way it's harmonic.
I'm sure he doesn't know.
Hey, got a death threat from Temporal Phoenix last night, saying that the big old boys that make the world go round are going to wipe me off the earth. They can't allow the time cube principle to continue.
I read that to you yesterday. You may have noticed when I shared my screen and went to Twitter earlier that the first T in my my recent searches is the phrase Temporal Phoenix. Is it a cult? Is the Temporal Phoenix like a secret society or something? No. Maybe, but it's not something that you'll find with a cursory search of Google.
I wish there was like somebody would take this website and make like a chart of like most to least used words. That'd be a really fun way and more useful way to access it, I think.
I want to dive into his lexicon.
Yeah, let's do that.
See, I just saw another phrase that, like, just makes me, like, scratch my head from the inside. I can call singularity educators the most putrid name on earth and claim the cow dung ambrosia. That's the phrase, cow dung ambrosia. But the lying ass bastards will not even object, for they know I am right, and that any debate will indict them for the evil they perpetuate against the students and future humanity. Scientists know time cube. Ugh.
I found something. Talk, Gene Ray Archive 1.
I found something horrifying, too.
This is...
Scientists are evil cowards and should be castrated.
Scientists are evil cowards and should be castrated.
I am organizing children to join cubic army of 4 days to convert evil one-day adults to 4-day mentality existence to serve perpetual humanity.
Critics of Ray like to draw attention to his, quote, marbles period because they consider it inconsistent with his later time cube theory, but supporters of Ray see his circle-based philosophy as a natural precursor to the time cube. I'm sorry, that's not meant in earnest. This was at one point in the Wikipedia article, and this person is being like, we need to treat this like more seriously because of the standards of Wikipedia, I guess. I'm sorry, that's not meant in earnest. And this is another quote. And the use of constant quotes from Ray in italics is not the kind of thing you'd see in any featured article candidate. Even if we can say that the people citing details are taking it seriously, the deconstructions would count as, quote, original research if documented here. There are encyclopedic aspects to Gene Ray's life, but it's important to focus on those here and leave the funnies for other sites. Firstly, let me say that I am not on a crusade. This is somebody who edited the article. I have often edited Gene Ray and Time Cube, but I did this because I believe that even topics on the very border of the comprehensible deserve good articles. I don't deny that I have in the past voted to delete them, and that I consider Ray's ideas utter and complete nonsense. But even utter and complete nonsense can be presented in a factual and unbiased way, and that's what I am trying to do here.
What are you looking at?
I'm looking at something called Talk Gene Ray Archive 1, Wikipedia. Wikipedia
Oh,
discussion.
I was just reading you text from the same thing that we were looking at the same thing. I was just reading you text from it.
Perfect.
Yeah. I was just going to tell you that overview of testable observable cubic hypotheses is what I'm reading now. My wisdom so antiquates known knowledge that a psychiatrist examining my behavior, eccentric by his academic single-corner knowledge, knows no course other than to judge me schizophrenic. Oh no, he did a lecture at MIT.
Yeah, he did.
Those poor kids. Jean Ray responds to Wikipedia.
Really? Oh, I saw a little bit of that.
Yeah, due to the incident involving the inclusion of the film Above God in this article, as well as other content Gene dislikes, he has posted the following on timecube.com. Wikipedia allowing the educated stupid to evaluate the 4 simultaneous 24-hour days within a single rotation of Earth equates allowing atheists to proofread the Bible. Dr. Jean Ray is the only authoritative TimeCube expert. So are we done?
Let me end with this. Keep ignoring me, you boring asses, and observe the slaughter of your children, protecting the oil barons ripping off their families back home. The enemy is back home, not in foreign lands. Ignore me and keep counting the dead sons. Oh. Sometimes he's right.
Sometimes he's right, but he doesn't have anything to do with it. It's independent of him that he's right, even though he's the one that put the words together.
It's a coincidence.
Or it's like truth. It's like cosmic truth.
Right. I shouldn't give him credit for the fact that that thing exists.
Yeah, it's not through his revelation that stealing oil from the Middle East is bad.
You've listened to us squirm about this for the entirety of this podcast.
You've listened to Leo Squirm and Randy Become Enlightened.
Yeah, to Leo Squirm and Randy Become Enlightened.
Yeah.
Draining a little bit of my life force.
And that's something I'm going to endeavor to do every week. Or at least every other week when I have to bring a topic to the table. And then eventually, by the grace of God, I will have a new co-host.
I'm just placeholder. God is dog brain.
Cow dung. Ambrosia. If we had perused the TimeCube website in search of a title for this podcast, I think we maybe could have found something somehow better than depth perception.
Too little, too late.
Thank you for listening to Depth Perception. You can support us by subscribing to our YouTube channel, kicking us a little bit of scratch on Patreon.